Hello, everybody. I'm John Solomon, editor-in-chief of Just the News, and we're here for the October release of the Freedom Economy Index. One of my favorite moments of my month. It's a tremendous partnership between our good friends at RedBalloon and, of course, Public Square. It's a extraordinary survey. 80,000 small businesses and their sentiments are measured each month. I've been doing this for several months now. Almost every month, this survey has captured the actual trend lines of the economy. Why? Because we're talking to people on Main Street who know what's really going on. It's a really exciting venture. And I think now, as journalists, myself, we cover this every month because it is really the bellwether of what is going on in our economy. We're joined today, as we've always been, by the two great co-sponsors of this poll, two great partners on this poll, Michael Seifert from Public Square and Andrew Crapichettis from RedBalloon, two of my favorite companies. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks for having us always.
Good to be here.
I love this. This is a good one. Let me just give everybody the number quickly. So this was done October 7th to 15th, so just about a week ago. Margin of error is plus or minus 4% at the 95% confidence level. That's very important. Good measurements. These are real people on the front lines of the economy. I want to start with you, Michael. There is a shocking statistic here. In fact, I think it should put chills in all of our spines. There's a lot of people thinking if Kamala Harris is vice president, Main Street's going to be in big trouble. Tell us what you found.
Well, John, that's exactly right. We found that an astonishing 87% of business owners surveyed said that they will actually consider closing their business down permanently if Vice President Kamala Harris becomes President Kamala Harris. 87% say they feel there is no way forward if Kamala is in office. This is incredibly detrimental in every sense of the word, and it shows you how much Main Street is feeling the pressure right now, how tired they are, and how their hope is starting to dwindle. It also shows you the effect of a policy agenda on the marketplace. Sometimes we view business and politics as somewhat separated. Our business owners here are telling us that's very much not the case. They view the policy agenda of the last 4 years and the potential that it could continue for another 4 years as the nail in the coffin of their business. It's heartbreaking, frankly.
Yeah. Andrew, what happens if Donald Trump becomes president? A very different sentiment among the survey folks here, right?
Absolutely. And it's funny how, we see this in sports, but you also see it in business. Optimism sometimes breeds success because when you believe you can win, when you believe that there's a way out, that there's an avenue in which you can win, sometimes you do win because that's just how God built us. So a very encouraging 83% said they plan to expand and invest in their business if Donald Trump wins. So it's this huge swing the other direction of like, look, and look, does the president have a huge impact on these businesses? Well, I used to think no, but the policies coming out of the White House over the last 3.5 years have hurt businesses so much, whether that's inflation or regulation or just the craziness of shutting down businesses. All of these things have had a huge impact on these businesses. And so there is hope on the horizon for the businesses, and it is a political hope right now. And obviously, they're still going to have to work hard. They're still going to have to strap in. But if these businesses see Donald Trump in the White House, they feel like there's an avenue for them to win that's going to breed optimism, and optimism often breeds success.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There is a thing called momentum, even on Main Street. All right, so 87% close if it's Kamala Harris, 83% expand if it's Donald Trump. That is a stunning contrast. Now, I've been noticing something very clear since Kamala Harris bumped Joe Biden off the ticket, and that is that she's really working the circuit for female voters, for women voters. She feels like there's a gender gap. She's working at it. But when I looked at this survey data, female small business owners, they're not on board with Kamala Harris. Am I right about that?
You're right. In fact, women business owners are 7 percentage points more likely than their male counterparts to consider reducing their staff if Harris wins. And they're actually 8% more likely to prepare for greater inflation. So women-owned businesses in this survey made it very clear that this narrative that Kamala is for women and that women should just feel obligated to go and vote for her purely because they share the same gender, it's patently absurd. It's also a bit patronizing. Business owners men or women recognize the value of a dollar. They recognize the value of their labor. They recognize the economy and what factors or levers that could be pulled out of an administration would benefit or harm the economy. Women business owners are a lot smarter than Kamala gives them credit for, because she assumes that, well, you're a woman, you're going to vote for me. But women in this survey are saying, no. I actually care about the future of my business. I care about the future of my community. I certainly care about the future of my employees. And I actually am going to look past the gender lines. I care a lot more about competency than I do gender. And that's reflected here in this survey.
The business bottom line. They're all CEOs. They know they got to run these companies to success because tens of millions of employees rely on these small businesses for their jobs. I found something really fascinating. We, over the last several months in doing this, I think most Americans now realize that the inflation disaster starts with all of the government spending. And these business owners understand it well because they've seen what's happened to their supply costs and their employment costs. But now they see in the Harris presidency some extraordinary trend lines. This is their predictions. And I want to start with you, Andrew. 92% of small business owners believe that Harris is going to continue uncontrolled government spending. There's almost nothing in America where 90% of people agree on things. That is a stunning finding. What do you think's behind it?
Well, I think look at the track record, right? Look at the track record, look at the policies, and it's hard to get a clear policy direction out of Harris. But when you do, it generally looks a lot like taxing people and spending more money in the government. And small businesses, and we've talked about this on this show before, small businesses know what it's like to have to balance their budget. They don't have this, captive audience. They don't have a monopoly like the government does on us, where they can just raise prices or taxes and just spend as much as they want. And so they feel that tension every day of, how do I turn a profit while blessing my customers? And it really rankers them that the government does not feel that tension. They do not feel any compulsion to try and balance the budget, right? And so, those 92% said they see uncontrolled spending. 91% said we're going to have higher taxes on our business. 87% said they would bring increased government regulation to small businesses. It's crazy. I mean, Elon Musk was recently giving a speech and talking about the study he had to do about the sharks to make sure they didn't lose their hearing because of his rockets. And he's like, regulation is killing businesses in America. So it's really all of those things that are pushing towards it. And unfortunately, Harris, again, policy you can actually get out of her is going to push towards higher taxes, higher regulation, and higher government spending.
Yeah, it's really noticeable. Michael, most business owners I know talk about regulation being the second form of taxation, right? Because it drives up expenses. And of course, those expenses automatically get driven down to the consumer, because that's the only place to pass them on to. When you look at the three things that people fear about: more regulation, more taxes, more uncontrolled government spending, they look at the Kamala Harris economy and say only 2% of them think it actually will grow the economy. That is remarkable. Only 2% of small business owners think Kamala Harris can grow this economy. I don't think I've ever seen a presidential candidate have that low an expectation. But people understand this is a witch's brew, right? These three: taxation, spending, and regulation, right?
That's exactly right. And actually, just two proposals that Kamala has put forth recently. She actually backed a $15 federal minimum wage last week, which, as we know, a $15 federal minimum wage would absolutely decimate the small business economy. You're going to tell a small business in South Dakota to pay the same wage that you're going to tell a small business in Los Angeles. It's a complete refusal to actually acknowledge economic factors that are based upon regions. It's also a complete overreach over state regulators, and small businesses will get harmed the most in the process. Walmart might be able to afford that, but the mom and pop shop down the street will not be able to. They're not going to be able to compete with that wage rise. The other thing that she put forth is a capital gains tax on unrealized gains, which I never thought I would live long enough to witness an actual serious contender for the presidency of the United States propose a tax on something you haven't even earned yet. And for those that are unfamiliar, capital gains, when they are on realized gains, I still disagree with the policy, but they are the law of the land currently. If you buy a share for $100 and then you sell it for $200, you pay taxes on that gain. What she is proposing doing is buying that stock at $100. You hold it till it hits 200. You still haven't sold it, but just because it increased in value, you're taxed on that gain. with money from where? You didn't sell anything. You have no ability to actually pay the tax because the asset, while it might have changed in value, it's not actually liquid. It's not realized. So for a startup founder, if you're trying to grow your business and you're worried that at every different priced round, you're going to have to pay taxes on unrealized gains, it's detrimental to entrepreneurship, innovation. And so when you have that message out of Kamala, and then you have the opposite from Trump and Elon's going to come in there and basically be a slasher and dasher, making it his full focus to reduce government inefficiency and spending. I think the choice is becoming very clear for these business owners, which route they want to go with for the next 4 years.
It's pretty remarkable. The two most specific things she's talked about, the unrealized gains tax and price controls, not only got knocked out of the park by Republicans, but a lot of liberal media said, are you kidding me? The Washington Post. Andrew, I think a lot of people are saying that what Kamala Harris's economy looks a little bit like the old Soviet Union or some of the communist and socialist regimes, price controls and taxing something that hasn't happened yet, just something that isn't very American. That seems to resonate in this survey, right?
Absolutely. I actually kind of wish that to get into Congress, to get into the White House, you have to pass a class on Economics 101.
There's a
Like
good
actually,
idea.
like
What a great idea.
read a Milton Friedman book, read a Thomas Sowell book, just one
Yeah,
book,
just one.
and actually do a book report on on any of these factors. Like, what does price control do? Because Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman, all these great economists, they say the value of a new law or a policy should be based on not its intent, but its actual outcome. And we have lots of historic data showing that when you do price controls, when you do regulations, when you do higher taxes, it will destroy an economy. But I actually think that there's a little bit of the presidency, if Harris got in there, that wants to destroy the economy. They want us to be beholden to the U.S. Government, and I think that is something that our businesses see. They don't want that. They want to have that resilient spirit where they can go out and make their own way, and not just be beholden to taxes and regulation.
Yeah, and it's important to remind people Kamala Harris really never spent any time in business. She's sort of been a government worker her whole life. And so that experience that Donald Trump and many other CEOs, including people who run newspapers, they know that this isn't the way the economy actually works. And it's a big disconnect. All right, we're just a few days from Halloween, which means we're on that 2-month hopscotch to holiday season. And I was going to bring in Elvis Presley here because it sounds like after reading this that Blue Christmas might be the right song to be playing right now. I was shocked at how downtrodden small business owners were when it comes to their expectations for the holiday season. Let's start with you, Michael. Were you surprised?
Sadly, I wasn't. The whole concept of consumer spending being healthy, and look at last year was a 9% increase in Christmas shopping season spending. Doesn't that mean that consumers are strong? Well, the reality is consumers were leaning more into credit last year than ever, and they were shopping from big box stores. So the small businesses are having a real difficult time competing in these holiday seasons throughout the entirety of Kamala Harris's vice presidency over the last 4 years. And it looks like this shopping season is not going to be any different. In fact, 25% of our businesses actually expect their revenues over shopping season to be flat from last year. And another 28% are actually expecting a sales decline from last year. When you pair this with the fact that 8 in 10 businesses that we surveyed actually say their supplier costs have risen yet again in the last 30 days, you're heading to a troubling shopping season. And normally we run a retail chain, a digital one, at publicsquare.com. Normally this is your Super Bowl. You can't wait for Christmas shopping season and
That's
Black
right.
Friday and Cyber Monday. But unfortunately this year, people are looking at the shopping season with nerves rather than anticipation and excitement, which is how it should be.
Yeah, no, it's really a remarkable thing. Andrew, one thing that I think has really become, I hear it everywhere I go when I'm out and about with people, our credit cards are maxed. To get through the last year, we maxed out our credit cards just to survive. I've heard terms like energy poverty, which I've never heard in my time as an American over the last 57 years. People don't have any more reserves to draw upon. I think that probably drives into this holiday sentiment, right? That the small business owners know their employees don't even have the money to go out and buy Christmas gifts the way they would normally do it.
That's exactly right, and we've seen that in previous surveys where these business owners they're just exhausted, and this is a group of very resilient people who have it's hard to be an entrepreneur. It's hard to
Yeah, it
start your own
is.
business. So these are people who are not afraid of a hard challenge. They're not afraid of headwinds or swimming upstream, but at some point you do get exhausted, and the last several years have really just exhausted our people. They see that there is not credit, there is not cash available for their job seekers, and for their employees. And so those people are out there spending so much money on food and on rent and on their mortgage and on gas for their car that I think it's going to be a very slow Christmas season. But I also just think a lot of these employers look at the economy right now and they're like, at some point, as we talked about earlier, do you throw in the towel? How do we actually survive through this? And when you're thinking about survival, you're not thinking, let's have a big, joyful Christmas season, unfortunately. And so, but this is a group of people that's not used to this. This is a group of people that like to work hard. They're not afraid of a big challenge. But at some point, the challenge does become overwhelming. And I feel like that's what they're feeling right now.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's remarkable. All right, so a lot of the economic discussion in America, when you turn television on, you turn on your forums, are elitists talking, the Jamie Dimons of the world, who, by the way, their economy is fine no matter what's really going on in America. So they're beginning to say, all right, Kamala Harris is going to avoid a recession, but the people on the front lines don't seem to share that. I was really shocked by this number because there's been a lot of talk on Wall Street. Oh, we're going to avoid. We're actually going to have a soft landing. Most people on the front lines of business don't see that. Michael, 57.4% of small business said I believe we are headed towards a recession. Only 10% think we're not. How can there be such a gap from the elitists who control those talk shows and the actual people on the front lines of the economy?
Well, because when you're an elite in this country, you get to view the United States as purely a bank. Nothing more, nothing less. Just a place you can extract value. That's it. And so for them, as you might have seen, Jamie Dimon actually came out and endorsed Kamala yesterday.
He did.
They're completely immune to the consequences of their own actions.
Yeah.
They have built up fortunes for themselves, and they've got friends in government and on K Street in the lobbying cesspool that will protect them no matter what. And they feel a great deal of comfort. And it sort of turns into this ignorance is bliss scenario. For our businesses on Main Street, though, for people like Andrew and myself and you, John, and patriots of America that do not see the United States as a bank, but we actually see it as a place that we should protect, an actual homeland that should be fought for, filled with incredible communities, we get really worried about recession. And we believe that our ability to see clearly, because we're not influenced by this elitist rose-colored set of lenses, showcases a very clear picture. We are headed toward a recession. And to pull off a soft landing at this point, when consumers are as strapped as they are and business owners are as strapped as they are, is a real problem. At least in some economic times, when only one of those entities is strapped, meaning a consumer is healthy, but the business owner is strapped, or a business owner is healthy, but the consumer is a little tight right now, they can each work with each other in order to accommodate the other. But right now, both are strapped, which creates sort of a perfect storm. And so I think that is found evident in all of these responses, but especially, yes, the fact that only 10% believe, less than that actually, that we are not going to experience a full-blown recession here in the coming months.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. And when you look at this sentiment, it isn't just crystal ball or guessing or just they're in a bad mood. There's a trend line in the last couple of months, very concerning. More than half of the small business owners you surveyed said that they saw revenues go down in the last 2 months, and another 25% said they were flat. So 3/4 of America are either flat or down on Main Street with their business. That's why they think a recession is coming. So it's based on experience, not just guessing, right, Andrew?
That's exactly right. And there's no way to do a soft landing when your debt to GDP ratio is where it is right now. And I think
Great
that
point.
is the elephant in the room that nobody really wants to talk about. But when you have more debt than you have GDP, we're over 100%, over 120%. When you see that in an economy, there's no way to have a soft landing. You have to control government spending, and you have to have government be a much smaller percentage of the economy to be able to land a plane coming out of that, coming out of these inflationary concerns. And so if you want to avoid recession, you need to honestly slash the government. You need to deregulate. You need to have taxes go down. And we saw that with Donald Trump. When he came in, some estimates were for every regulation that his administration added, they removed 20 regulations. Well, we saw the economy start to thrive. And so that's the worst part, is it's actually not that hard. And when we see the Kamala Harris folks talk about policies that are mirroring what Donald Trump did, it's because they know there is a good way. There is a way to juice this economy and get this economy going the right direction. They just don't want to do it. So they will give lip service to those things, but they're still not going to do that because they actually want a subservient economy that has only big businesses that they can control. I just hate to say it. There's a very pessimistic view for you, but unfortunately, that's what we're seeing right now. And our small businesses are feeling that, and they're on the front lines, and they're getting picked off with inflation and regulation and taxes. But I still think that there's hope for America, and I do think that this election is going to go a better way than CNN is going to tell you.
Yeah, that's for sure. I want to stay with you, Andrew, for just a second, because obviously you're in the business of connecting employees or potential employees to employers. That's what RedBalloon does, as one of the great job hunting services in America. I have seen this myself as someone who's had to go out and hire people for my own company. There is a significant concern about the next generation of workers on two fronts: work ethic and sense of entitlement. This shows up, I think, like 60 or 70% of the employers, potential employers on small business Main Street America, see these as a hindrance to hiring. It's not surprising for anyone who's been going through job interviews the last 5 years, but how do we solve this gap? This is a big gap for America to solve, because we got baby boomers dropping out of the marketplace, as we all expected. That next generation doesn't seem to have the same ethos as the people they're replacing.
No, that's absolutely true. In fact, there's one estimate that 3.5 million 25 to 35-year-old men are not even participating
That's
in the
amazing.
economy right now. That is crazy, right? And that 25 to 35-year-old, that is when you're establishing your career. That's when you're building your network. That's when you're learning the skills that are going to turn you into an executive at some point and a meaningful contributing member of society. And unfortunately, those men are in their parents' basements on opioids playing video games. And so we have disincentivized men from showing up to work and wanting to support a family. And you read George Gilder and all the great economists, they'll talk about anytime the government can outbid men when it comes to supporting a family, it's a disincentive to the men and to the women to actually establish a household and go and work hard and do the things that are going to build the economy of the U.S. again. And so employers are feeling that right now. They don't see access to the talent. And then the second punch in this, the 1-2 on this, is that 75% of employers in America have had a labor-based lawsuit in the last 5 years. 75% of employers in America have had a labor-based lawsuit in the last 5 years. And that's just because if you get someone in who hates your way of life, who hates capitalism, they see you as a bank, just like politicians are seeing America as a bank right now. And so there is a lot of headwinds for employers to find the right people. They're concerned about hiring. Hiring used to be fun. It used to be that you were in America, you hire someone, you're giving them an opportunity, they're part of your team,
New
you're
asset
building
for the
something
company,
together.
your most important asset. Yeah.
New asset for the company. Yeah, loved it. And and if it's a young person, you're giving them an opportunity to grow their career. Hiring is no longer fun in America. It's terrifying. And so we want to make hiring fun again. I don't actually know what the acronym for that is, but that's what we're trying to do here at RedBalloon. Make hiring fun again, math or something. Anyway, that's it.
MHF. Something like that. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
I like it. It works,
Math.
actually. I could tell you, as someone who employs a lot of people, it's frustrating sometimes to go through these job interviews. Michael, education's a big issue here too. Parents' rights, school choice, what our children have been learning in the schools. And it seems like a lot of this ethos problem in the workforce seems to wind back to the experiences that these young people had in education that gave them a sense of entitlement and a sense of malaise when it comes to being responsible and aggressive and work ethos oriented. On a lot of people's minds, you think, as they go to the polls and pull the lever in the next few days?
I think so. I think they're going to want to vote for candidates and support policies that will restore meritocracy. There was a time in our country where hard work was the determining factor in your success
was.
over and above everything else. And 22% of our respondents actually said that a sense of entitlement and unrealistic expectations about what it means to work in general is the biggest challenge, which is a much deeper philosophical concept, the meaning of work. And our country has lost the value for the meaning of work. It can't even define it anymore. There was a time where we could all align on the fact that the meaning of work was to be a productive member of society so that you could provide for your family and your community. You could leave an impact and leave your community better than the way you found it. And unfortunately, that's not a trait or a philosophical principle that's largely carried amongst the generation. And in many ways, I can't even blame them. It really is the school systems that have indoctrinated them to believe that they are entitled to the state actually taking care of them. And they've never been told who actually funds the state. They've never been told the value of hard work that actually keeps this whole American experiment going. They've actually been taught the opposite, which is that the American experiment is a hateful and bigoted and unnecessary thing.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of work to do at the very root level. It's a lot different than just attacking the symptoms. You have to go back to the root and train up a next generation of leaders that understand that your work ethic and your ability to, wherever you are, be all there will be your determining factor in success. The people that learn that are going to have such a leg up on their competitors in the workforce in the coming years.
No doubt about it. And they'll get a good job when they go on RedBalloon's website and get that
Yes.
right match with the employer. That's a great deal. All right. I'm going to put you on the spot because we just got a couple minutes left. We're 10 days away from the election. Maybe it won't be decided in 10 days. We might have to wait another 24, 48 hours. But I'd like to get both of your guys' prediction on what you think American voters are thinking and what the outcome could become. We'll start with you, Michael.
Well, I think I'm cautiously optimistic. If you love this country and our freedoms and lower regulation and lower taxes and more prosperity and more common sense, I'm cautiously optimistic that Trump will carry a victory here. I've never seen the polling like I'm seeing it now. Early voting results in counties like Miami-Dade are favoring Trump by 14%. I mean, it's unlike anything I've ever witnessed. It's actually even far superior to 2016. So I think these signs give me a lot of confidence that people are showing up to their voting stations in droves, and they're making sure that their voices are heard. But as we know, our election system is deeply complex, in many cases problematic. And this idea that we're not going to know the results of the election for days afterwards definitely gets me concerned.
Maricopa County in Arizona saying it might be 13 day in a city that has machines that count ballots in seconds. It's just insane to sometimes hear some of the pronouncements coming out of these places. Andrew, I'm going to finish up with you. Get the last word. What's your thinking about what question people are asking themselves when they go pull that lever on November 5th?
Well, I think what we're seeing right now is an America that is actually waking up. I talk to job seekers and businesses every day who 3 years ago were not sure really, are they left or right? And, just like Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, all these people have been like, okay, so we can see the results of what it is doing to America to have the Democrats running cities, having them run our nation, and it is destroying our country. It is more expensive. It is less joyful. It is very painful to live in a Democrat-run economy. And I think people are seeing that. And it's at the end of the day, it's the economy, stupid. So I think the economy is the thing that people are thinking about right now. And the current administration has been extremely detrimental to the economy. So I'm with Michael. I'm cautiously optimistic, not only about the White House, but I think there's going to be a broad swath of people who are going to be putting Republicans into office. And my hope is that the Republicans don't let it get to their head and then do stupid things while they're there and turn into rhinos. I hope that they stick with their guns and do good stuff, and we can make this country get back on better footing.
I'm old enough to remember the 1980 race, and this is the first time in my lifetime that this election is the first one that feels like 1980, which is, are you better off than you were 4 years ago, really is the question in the back of everyone's minds. And the answer is hell no. And so we'll see if that turns into an election mandate for Republicans on November 5th. And we got some good opportunity because the next index we're going to announce next month will actually measure what went on in the election. What did small business owners see? What do they think about it? And what is their thoughts for a 2025 America? That's going to be a very exciting thing indeed. Folks, if you want to go get this great survey and read all of it, it's fascinating reading. I was downloading last night. I just enjoyed it. Go to redballoon.work/freedom economy, redballoon.work/freedom economy. You can download the whole thing. It is fascinating. It's a great read. I think it's the best bellwether of what's really going on in the economy right now. So go check that. Guys, I look forward to always gathering with you every month. This is such a fun conversation. Michael and Andrew, I can't thank you enough for what you do with your companies, what you do with this index, and also for the time you spent with us today. It's really great to have you on.
Good to see you, John. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, everybody have a good election day. Don't stay home. You don't win a football game by sitting on the bench. You got to get in the game on November 5th. We'll be back next month, and we'll tell you exactly what happened. Until then, God bless. Have a great rest of your day.